We are going to install the Windows wallet. So what you want to do is go down into the comments section. You'll see all these links I have here, and we're going to want to go to the Rabbit Core GitHub site to download the Windows wallet. Once we get here, we're going to download the wallet for the particular version, the operating system that we're running. And right now I'm running a Windows 64. So I will download this, and I'm going to save it onto the desktop. And what you're going to want to do is extract this file you just downloaded to a permanent location. This is basically installing this wallet. These wallets are just plain old executables. So you're going to want to extract it to a permanent location, and that's about the same as installing it as you in the normal sense. So what you want to do is just go to extract all, and then you're going to want to choose a permanent location. I'm not going to choose the desktop because I don't want to clutter my desktop. I'm going to put this in the program files directory just with all the rest of my programs on the computer. So C drive program files, and I'm going to say select this folder, and then I'm going to choose a new folder. Just call it Rabbit. We're going to extract it to there. And there was a checkbox that was on that screen, and I left that checked so it would automatically open this folder for me. And now what I'm going to do is open that Rabbit Core, and then I'm going to send a shortcut onto the desktop for this Rabbit Qt. This is the actual wallet that you want to run. So if you right click that, you say send to desktop, and that just creates a shortcut on your desktop. So now you can, whenever you want to run the wallet, you'll just double click this shortcut here, and you can put the shortcut wherever is convenient for you. One thing I also need to do, since I'm running this on a Windows server that's in a secure mode, I have to come in here and unblock this type of program. This happens on any program that I download from the internet, so you may not have to do this step, but if you are in a super secure system, you can try this. So you right click the executable, and you come down here and you do unblock. You probably don't need to do that. I just need to do it on these servers that I run this on. So first thing you want to do is run the Rabbit wallet, and the first time you run it, it's going to ask you a couple questions. First one is, where do you want to install the data directory? Just leave it as default. This is a simple place to put it, and if anyone ever needs to help you, they will know where it's installed, so just leave it as default. We'll hit OK. And now it says it is synchronizing with the network. This may take a few minutes. What you can do to make sure it's not stuck and make sure it's progressing is you just kind of hover over this, and it'll give you a indication of where it's at. And it says process 300 blocks. So as long as that number is moving under the blocks, then you're synchronizing the wallet. One other way to check is you go into help, tools, debug console, and then go to this information tab, and this will tell you the number of connections you have and the current block you're on. And you see this number is increasing. As long as this is increasing, you're downloading the blockchain. If this number gets stuck for say 10 minutes or something, you might want to go onto the Discord channel and ask if anyone has any suggestions on what to do. But as long as this is moving, you're downloading. It might take an hour, sometimes it takes 5 minutes. It just depends your connection speed and the number of connections out there in the network. But this looks like it's going good. I'm just going to let this run its course. And the first thing we want to do in here is create a couple addresses for our wallet. And to create those, we go to File, Receiving Addresses. You're going to have one address already. This is just the first address you get when you install the wallet. I'm going to rename this wallet, so I'm going to go to Edit, and this will edit the label for the address. And this is just a friendly name for the address. No one else sees this name, only you do. It's just a way you can give a name to this address here in your wallet. So I'm going to call this from presale. So what I'm going to do in a later step is I'm going to purchase some coins, and when I purchase those coins, I'm going to tell the person I purchased them from to send them to this address. And that's what this address is for, is just to collect the coins. I'm going to create one more address, and I'll hit the new button. And this new address I'm going to call is just, this is going to be my MasterNode collateral address. So I'm going to give it a label of MasterNode 1 or MN1. And once I've collected all my coins from wherever I'm purchasing them from, or mining them, or however I'm getting all my coins, I'm going to collect them sort of on this presale or whatever addresses. And then when I'm ready to set up my MasterNode, I'm going to send the exact amount of coins to this MN1 address. So that's what this second address is for. Right now we only need 2 because I'm going to purchase a bunch of coins and I'm going to send them here. And then when we're ready to set up the MasterNode, I'm going to deposit, or I'm going to transfer those coins onto this MN1. So these are the only addresses we needed now. Now that we have a couple addresses, it looks like, let's see where this chain is at. So it's saying synchronize MasterNode payments, up to date. Up to date means the blockchain is up to date, and it's just doing some MasterNode synchronization. So this wallet really is good for the blockchain. It just needs to do some MasterNode stuff. So what I want to do now is, before I get into any other steps, is the first thing I want to do is I want to come in here and I want to go to Settings, Encrypt Wallet. This will put a password on my wallet. So if somebody gets access to my computer and opens my wallet, they can't send coins. As long as I have the address locked, it will require a password for someone to unlock it and send the coins somewhere. So I'm going to put a passphrase on this. And you don't want to lose this passphrase, and you want to make it complex. I'm going to make a very, very simple one, but you don't want to do that. You want to make a complex password, and you want to remember that. If you encrypt your wallet and you lose your passphrase, you will not be able to get access to your coins. So make sure you remember what this password is. So I made that passphrase. Hit OK. It's going to say, warning, if you lose it, you're going to lose all your coins. All right, I'm OK with that. And then now it says to finish it, it wants to restart. Just hit OK. It'll close it down. It won't reopen it, so once it's closed down, give it a few seconds to actually close. Sometimes it takes a minute. Then open it back up. And now what you can see is this wallet icon, or this lock icon, has been locked. That tells you your wallet is locked. So it is encrypted, but it's also locked. Encrypted and locked are two different things. Encrypted just means there's a password on it. Locked means it's locked from anyone being able to use it. To unlock the wallet, you need to have that passphrase or that password. But those are two different things. You can have an encrypted wallet and it's unlocked, or it can be encrypted and locked. It's really locked and unlocked is what you do with the password. Encrypted means you have a password on it. So now we do have an encrypted wallet. What I want to do is I want to make a backup of this wallet. So before we start doing anything, we always want to encrypt it and then make a backup. So if you go under File, Backup Wallet, choose a location. I'm just going to put it on the desktop, and I am just going to give it a real quick name, which is the name of the coin. This is usually what I do with all my backups. Is give it the name of the coin and then a date. And then wallet.dat. That way I know it's a wallet.dat file. This is the normal name is just wallet.dat. So now I know the coin and the date. I'm going to put this on the desktop. We'll hit save, and you'll see it has created that file here. What you'll want to do is make a backup of this file somewhere off of this machine you're installing on. So like on a thumb drive or something. Because if you have all your backups on the same machine, you have your wallet. If your computer crashes and you lose your wallet and you lose your backups, you can't get back to them. You can't restore those coins. They're gone. So make sure you store this backup in a safe place. And I always put in encryption. I always encrypt the wallet before I make these backups. Because if you make a backup and you don't encrypt it, and someone gets access to that backup, like that thumb drive, if they take your thumb drive, then they can get to your coins also. So you always want to make sure you encrypt it and then make your backup, and that's what you're storing is your backups. And you don't want to store your backups and the password to those backups in the same location. So usually what I do is I throw these backups, the DAT files, onto a thumb drive and I put them in my safe, but then I put the password in a different location. I don't keep the passwords and the safe and the thumb drive in the same safe. I keep them in different locations. So we do now have an encrypted wallet. We've made a backup. So we basically installed this wallet and we're ready to go on to the next step, which is going and purchasing coins from wherever, an exchange or mining coins or a pre-sale. And whenever you get those coins, what you're going to do is to get your coins sent to your wallet, you come into File, Receiving Addresses, and then you choose the address that you created. In this case, we called it pre-sale. So you right click it and you just say copy address, and then you give that address to whoever you purchased the coins from, or you put that into your mining software. That's where you're going to mine the coins to. Or when you're in an exchange and you want to send them to your wallet, you send them to that address. So what I'm going to do now is go out and get some coins, and then I will be back in a minute and we will move on to the next step. Alright, so now I have just purchased 1001 coins and sent them to my wallet here. And the reason I chose 1001 is because you need a little bit of extra. The collateral for Rabbit is 1000 coins, but you need a little bit extra to make a transaction. So what you'll want to do is when you purchase them, you're going to want 1001 or 1000.5 or 1000.25. You just need a little bit more so you can send some transactions. So we've collected our coins onto this from pre-sale address. So what we want to do now is we want to send those coins to our MasterNode collateral address. So if you go into File, Receiving Addresses, you want to right click the MasterNode 1, say copy address, and this is go to the Send tab and then Pay To. You're going to pay to your MasterNode 1 and it auto populates a label because it is in my address book. We're going to send exactly 1000 coins. And when you send those 1000 coins, it's going to subtract 0.0002 from your balance in your wallet. My balance in my wallet is 1001 coins. So this is why we're good. If I had sent myself exactly 1000 coins, when I did this transfer to my MasterNode collateral address, I would have less than 1000 coins because I need to pay this transaction fee. So you always want to send this tiny little bit extra, and it's simple just to do the one extra coin. But you don't need a whole one. You can do 0.1 or 0.5, but I would just go with one extra coin. So now you have this transaction you're ready to do. You're going to pay to your MasterNode 1, 1000 coins, and you'll just hit send. And now it's asking you to unlock the wallet because I had it locked. So we will do that. And then it wants to confirm, saying, are you sure you really want to send 1000? There's going to be a transaction fee that's added. And this all looks good. Just hit yes. And then, once it's done, you can come over here to Transactions tab. And you can see that first transaction I had was from presale. The second transaction was me paying myself 1000 coins. So when you send yourself coins within your wallet, the amount will not show the actual amount you sent because you didn't send any coins outside your wallet. The amount will only show that transaction fee that you paid. So if you want to double click that, you can see the amount that I sent. I sent 1000 coins to myself. So this transaction here, we're going to need to wait until this has 16 confirmations. Right now it's still unconfirmed. If you just hover over it, it'll tell you that. So what we need to do is wait until there's 16 confirmations on this transaction. Once there's 16, that transaction is considered good and usable for a MasterNode. So what we're going to do now is just kind of move on to the next step, because while we wait for that those 16 confirmations, we can move on to the next step. We're going to install a program called Putty. Putty is the program we're going to use to communicate with our VPS and set it up. So what you'll want to do is go to this website, putty.org, and we're going to download the application. Click this download Putty here. And then I'm running a Windows 64-bit, so I'm going to choose that. And I'm just going to hit the run. And then I'm going to step through this installation. Just everything is default is what we want. Don't need to use README. And just hit finish. So now we have Putty installed. And before we connect to our VPS, we're going to want to create an RSA key. And the RSA key will be used to communicate with our VPS server in a secure way. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to create a public and private key pair for your computer to connect to your VPS. And you're going to set it up so the only person that can connect to that VPS is somebody with the private key. So that way you can protect your VPS from anyone connecting to it. And the only person that can connect to it is you, because you should be the only person with that private key. So to create this RSA key, we just go to the Putty installation folder, and we want to choose this program that Putty installed called PuttyGen. And this is how you generate RSA keys. So the first step is to click Generate, and then you move your mouse around until this status bar here is filled up. You're creating just random movements of your mouse. That way the key that's created is unique to your situation. Alright, so now we have this RSA key. This is the public key we will use, and we need to save this public key and our private key into a location. So I'm going to save them here on the desktop. But before I save them, I'm going to do an extra level of security, and I'm going to put a passphrase onto my private key. That way if anyone gets access to my private key, they still can't get onto my VPS unless they know my password. So I'm going to create a very simple password, but you don't want to create a simple one. You want to create a complex one, and you're going to also want to remember that, because that will be the only way you can connect to your VPS. The one good thing about this setup is the VPS doesn't actually contain any coins in this setup. The VPS is just running the MasterNode. So if you lose access to this private key or this password on your private key, it's not the end of the world. You'll have to recreate your MasterNode on the VPS, but you won't lose your coins. Your coins are only going to be located in your local Windows wallet. So now I got a passphrase here. I'm going to save off this public key. Just save it onto the desktop. And I'm just going to give it a super simple name. What you'll want to do is create a real name with the coin name in it, and my suggestion is you create one of these RSA keys for every coin in every VPS instance. So say if you had 3 masternodes of the same coin, you're going to want to label each of these keys differently and create a separate key for each masternode instance. And that way if somebody does get access to one of your keys or somehow hacks into it, not all of your masternodes are at risk. So I suggest you create a separate one for each coin in masternode. So I'm just going to create it pub key, or call it pub key, but you can call it something with the coin name and maybe a date, whichever you want. So now we have the public key. Now we're going to save the private key. Just do the same thing onto the desktop. I'm just going to call it private key. So now we have the public and the private key, and this is saved off so we can get access to it later. You'll want to store these in a permanent location also, not here on the desktop, so save them somewhere where you remember where they're at, because you will need them when we set up Putty later, or you'll at least need the private key. So I'm going to leave this PuttyGen window open, because we will use this in a minute when we connect to our VPS. You don't have to use it, but I like to use it because I have this key already set up. This is a key I'm going to enter when we get to that VPS setup step. So right now, I'm just going to move on to the next step, and we're going to leave this here. So the next step here is to create an instance of a VPS, a virtual private server, in which we will be running the MasterNode daemon. And so the service provider I use is called Vultr, and I have a link down in the comments here. It's a referral link, so if you want to use my referral link, use the whole thing. If you just want to go straight to the website and not use my referral, you can remove the referral portion. And I use Vultr just because I'm used to them, but there's a couple different other places you can use. But in this video, I'm going to show you how to use Vultr. And I already have an account set up, so I'm just going to go straight to my account. So once you have set up your account in Vultr, the first thing you're going to want to do is go into the billing tab and set up a billing method, and you need to prepay for these servers. So you'll set up a credit card, and then you'll add, say, $10 or $25, whatever you want, to your account. You can start with $10 to see how you like it, because the servers that we're going to be setting up today are only $5 a month. So if you throw $10 in, then you're good to go for at least a couple months. So I would just start with 10, see how you like it. If you don't like it, then you can move to a different service. But once you have that set up, then you come here to the servers tab, and the first thing you want to do is set up your SSH key. And you click that, and then you'll click add SSH key, and the SSH key is this key that you had created with the Putty generator. So if you highlight this entire key here, copy that, paste it into this box, and then give it a name. In this case, I'm just going to call it the coin name and MasterNode 01, and hit add. And if you did that correctly, it will say added a key. So we're good to go. Next you want to do is click this plus to deploy a new server. And in here you're going to choose the location that's closest to you. You'll choose your continent and then your location. And then you're going to want to come down here to choose Ubuntu and go for 1604x64. And then you're going to choose the $5 a month option. You could try the $250 a month option. It has less memory. I don't know for sure that it'll work, but it probably will work. I would start with the $5 a month till you're comfortable. Once you're comfortable setting these things up, you can start trying the ones with the lower memory. But let's just do the $5 for now. And we don't need to enable any of these. One thing you could enable that you might want to do is the auto backups. So if this server ever goes down, you can always just restore it from a backup, which is nice. You won't have to go through this huge process again. Another option that you could maybe do is this DDoS protection, and that would only be if somebody is attacking your MasterNode trying to block you from getting rewards. It's $10 a month, so it's kind of spendy. So at the first, I wouldn't enable this, but if you notice that people are hitting you and blocking you, then you might want to enable this in the future. The last thing you want to enter is the SSH key. So we're going to configure this server with this SSH key, or the RSA key that we had set up earlier. And then we're going to give it a name. Same thing. I'm just going to call it rabbit-setup.sh. And we're deploying one server, $5 a month. That looks good. Hit deploy now. And what it's going to do is your server will now be visible here. It's going to go through a couple different statuses. What you're going to want to do is just kind of wait a few minutes until this says that it's ready. So what I'm going to do is just sit back and wait a minute, and I'm going to speed up the video. Once we get to it being ready, we'll move on to the next step. So just sit back and relax. Okay, it looks like it has moved to the status of running. What you can do is kind of click here in this white area, and it'll bring you to a little bit more information about the server. And once you see this message here, it looks like we're probably good to go. So what we can do now is move on to the next step of opening Putty to connect to this server. So what you'll want to do is come to the Putty menu, and in here this time we're going to choose the full version, which is just the Putty program. Hit Putty. And in here we're going to enter a couple things. The first thing we're going to enter here is the host name, which is the IP address. That's down here, so you just click this to copy it to your clipboard. You're going to paste it into that box. Then you're going to come down here and we're going to set up the SSH key for it. So you click that to expand this, and then click this auth here. And then this is here where we put the private key, so you can hit browse. And then browse to where you stored it. I stored it on a desktop. Private key. Open it up. And then come back up here to the top. And what I like to do is I like to save this configuration. It's not really a big hassle to do this configuration, but it's a lot easier if you save it. So what you want to do to save it is you give it a name here. and I'm just going to call it rabbit-01, same name, and hit save. And that way in the future, if I need to connect to this VPS, I can just highlight this, hit load, and then hit open. But right now, we're ready. We'll just hit open. And you're always going to get the security alert. This is fine when you're connecting to Putty to this Vultr website, but if you're connecting to Putty to someone else's place, you might want to double check to make sure what you're really connecting to is what you think you are. But for right now, I know we're good. We're just going to hit yes. And now it asks you, what do you want to log in as? We don't want to use this username and password over here. We're going to use the username of root, but we don't want to use the password there. So what we want to do is just log in as root, R-O-O-T. And then it's going to ask for that passphrase for that RSA key. And that's the passphrase we set up here when we put the passphrase on our private key. So it's asking the passphrase of the private key, not the password displayed in Vultr. So just enter your RSA private key password. And if you did it correctly, then it will log you in. And this here is called the command prompt. And, well, I call it the command prompt. I'm not sure what it's called in Unix. But this means that the system is ready for the next input. So when you're setting up these VPSs and you're entering commands into this Putty window, whenever you see this prompt, this means you're ready to enter the next command. So the server is ready for a command. So we are ready to start setting up this VPS server. I'm going to get rid of a couple of these windows because we don't need these for now. And what I do have is down in the comments, I have the commands you're going to want to run on the Linux machine. And this is your Linux machine. So what you want to do is highlight these and copy them. But to paste in Putty, you just right click one single time. You don't choose anything else. You don't hit Control V. You just right click once and it automatically pastes it. And then you hit enter. And that command has been run. Now it's ready for the next command. Highlight this and copy it. Right click once. Hit enter. Now it's ready for the next command. Copy, right click, enter. It's ready for the next one. And this is the one that's actually going to do stuff. So this one will take a few minutes. So I'm going to right click once and it pasted it and I entered it, and now it's going to run through a bunch of stuff. So now we just kind of have to sit back and wait. I'm going to sit back and I'm going to fast forward the video to get through this quicker, but what you'll want to do is whenever you see a command that says, do you want to do this, yes or no, just hit yes, and we will be back in a minute once this is ready. And now the script is finished. It's telling you a few different things. It's saying where it's installed, the private key value, and then here's really the only value you need is this long string here, which contains some information we'll put into the Windows hot wallet. And then it gives you a couple other things that you can use if you want. But what we want to do is we want to use this string here to configure our Windows wallet to connect to this VPS running MasterNode. Now we're going to connect our VPS wallet to our Windows wallet so they can both communicate with each other. So if you don't already have the Windows wallet running, you want to just open it up. And what you want to do is come over to Tools and do Open MasterNode Configuration File. And the information we're going to enter in this file is going to be located on this VPS screen. And it is this information here. So what we have here is this MN1, which is called your alias. That's what your wallet is going to call your MasterNode that's running. In case you want to run 2 or 3 or 4 of them, the alias will distinguish them as separate masternodes. The next part is the IP address of your VPS server, and the port that it's running on. And then it has the MasterNode private key. This is the private key of the VPS wallet. And then there's a couple more informations, TXID, TXIDX. Those are information we will get in another step. So to copy it, you just highlight it, and it automatically copies it. So in Putty, you don't want to right click, and you don't want to hit control buttons. You just highlight it, and it's automatically copied. You come over here into your configuration file, and then paste it. Get rid of this white space, I don't think we need that. So we have the information we need, which is the alias, the IP address, the port, the MasterNode private key, and then these last two pieces of information we're going to get from the Windows wallet. So this MasterNode private key allows this Windows wallet to communicate with the VPS wallet. We also need to prove to the network that we have 1,000 coins locked away in our MasterNode. And the way we prove that is we give the network this transaction ID of when we deposited those 1,000 coins. And then there's also this transaction ID index, which is a 10 value. You'll see that in the next screen. So if you go to the Windows wallet, you want to go to, well, first you want to check your transactions. So you want to double check that transaction where you paid yourself 1,000 coins. This is the transaction I know that I did it. You can double click it and you can double check. It's 1,000 coins. So that transaction, if you hover over it, you want to make sure it's got a bunch of confirmations. 16 is what you need to run your MasterNode, but as long as you have like 5 or 6, you can move on to this step. But if you want to be safe, just wait till there's 16 confirmations, and then you can go to this next step, which is running Tools, Debug Console. You go to the Console tab here, and down in here you're going to enter the command MasterNode outputs. And when you hit that, you're going to get a couple pieces of information. What you get is the transaction ID of when you deposited those 1,000 coins, and then your transaction ID index. So this first value, copy that, and you paste it here as the transaction ID. And then this last value is a 1, so I'm just going to type a 1 out here. So this MasterNode configuration file looks good. It has the alias, the IP address, colon, the port number, the MasterNode private key, the transaction ID, which we got from here, and the transaction index, which we got from here. The rest of that stuff we got from this window, so we know it's good. So this file looks good. We're going to hit File Save, and then File Exit, closing that file out. We don't need this debug window open anymore, so we're going to close that. And our wallet should be set up now. We have the configuration file set up. We double check this confirmation count is 16. As long as you're a 16 or more, then you're good to restart this wallet and start your MasterNode. If you're not yet at 16, you just want to wait until this is at 16. Before we restart the wallet though, I noticed that the MasterNodes tab is not displayed out here, and so whenever you enable that MasterNodes tab, you need to restart anyway. So before we do a restart, I'm going to enable that. So go to Tools, Settings, Options, and go to Wallet, and you want to do Show MasterNodes tab. And what that can do is you hit OK. Well, you also probably want to enable the coin control features. You may need those in the future. I would do it just now, just because you're going to want it in the future anyway. So enable the coin control, show MasterNodes, hit OK. And now we can restart this wallet, so it loads that new configuration file, and so now it has the MasterNodes tab that we need. So exit out, wait a second, open it back up. Now you can see we do have the MasterNodes tab. Before we go to that tab and use it, what I want to do is I'm going to wait until this green bar here finishes. What it's doing is it's synchronizing the blockchain, but it's also synchronizing the masternodes on the network. So before I like to mess with the masternodes tab, I like to allow it some time to synchronize with all the masternodes. So I'm just going to sit back and wait a minute, and I'm going to fast forward the video during this section. So just sit back and wait until this finishes. You know, you might have to go up, get something to drink, come back in a couple minutes. Sometimes it takes a few minutes. Alright, so that has finished synchronizing. So what we can do now is come over here to the MasterNodes tab, and you see now the MasterNode that we had put into the configuration file is here. Has a status of missing, but that's perfectly fine at this point because we have not enabled it yet. Before we enable it, I notice here that we're still locked. What we want to do is unlock the wallet before we do that. If you try to enable it when it's locked, it'll just say that it's locked. So you want to go into here, unlock wallet, enter the password, and now it is unlocked. Still encrypted, but we're unlocked. So once we're unlocked, we can highlight that, and you can say start alias to start that one, or you can hit start missing. If you had a bunch of masternodes in here and only one was missing, you can just hit start missing. It'll start only the ones that are missing. You can highlight which one you want, hit start alias, or you can just say start all if they're all missing. But in this case, any of these buttons will work. I'm just going to highlight this one, hit start alias. Are you sure you want to do that? And it says masternode 1 successfully started. You hit OK. And now it's moved into this status called pre-enabled, and this just means that the masternode is now communicating out on the network to the other masternodes and basically advertising itself that it's there. Once it's advertised to all the masternodes and everyone has accepted it, then that will move to a status of enabled. You're going to want to wait, I would say, at least 10 minutes before that moves to enabled, but you could probably wait a couple hours before you be concerned. And you can always hit this update status button, or it automatically updates every 60 seconds. And what you can do, if you are having more problems and you don't think it's working, you can always come back to this Putty window, and it tells you a few different commands. It says press any key to continue. If you hit continue, it gives you some more information here. Hit enter again, and what it's doing now is displaying to us real-time information. It refreshes. And it's telling you different information about your masternode. It says here that it is started. If I would have hit that enter before I came over here and started it, it would say it wasn't started. But this is good. This is saying that it's started. Everything looks good on this masternode right now. One thing you can do to do an extra check is check out on the blockchain, the block explorer, to see if your masternode is visible. So I do have a link in here to the Block Explorer. You can also find that link on the Discord server. Just search for Block Explorer. But let's open the Block Explorer and just double check. And something the Block Explorer will show you is all the masternodes running on the network. So you get here, you click this Masternodes tab, and this will display all the masternodes out on the network. What we want to do is search for our masternode, and the way to find our masternode is you search by this payee ID, and we see it's RDGPQ. So capital R, capital D, lowercase g. What we can do in here is we can do a quick search, and you can see this is, you can double check, but that is the same address that we're looking at. Can't move it on the screen very well. RDGPQBB, RDGPQBB. So you can see our status is pre-enabled. It is showing that this masternode out there is pre-enabled. This is a very good indication that your masternode is actually communicating on the network. So this pre-enabled status, I have no fear that this is going to move to enabled here in the next half an hour to an hour. So what you want to do now is just sit back and let it communicate out there. Usually what I'll do is I'll let it run overnight before I get concerned that it's not actually out there visible or it's not set up correctly. If you don't have any rewards after it runs, say overnight, it's like 8 hours or something like that, 8 to 12 hours, then you might want to go onto the Discord and ask some people what could be happening and you haven't gotten a reward. Sometimes they might say to wait 12 hours or even up to 24 hours. But if you don't have anything right now, since there's very few masternodes, it should move to enable, and you should be getting rewards within, I would say, at least 12 hours. But sometimes it does take a while. I've seen it, even on a small network like this, I've seen it take 6 to 7 hours or 8 hours. So I wouldn't be concerned until after about 12 hours. Maybe then check with Discord, and people might just say wait 24. So that's sort of up to you. But this is a very good sign that the network can see my masternode. And one thing I forgot to tell you is once you've allowed this to run overnight and you are starting to receive masternode rewards, I then close this putty window. You can close this putty window at any time by just hitting the X here. You don't want to shut it down. You don't want to do anything in this window. You don't want to run any commands to shut it down or restart or anything like that. Just hit this X button up here, and that disconnects you from the server, but everything on the server is still running. So if you want to close the putty out, just hit this X, and then if you want to connect back up, you just run putty again and connect, and it'll come right back to here. But I like to leave this putty window open until I've received some masternode rewards. So I leave it up overnight. Once I've confirmed that my masternode is getting rewards, then I just close out this putty window. Just hit the X. It says, are you sure you want to close it? It's closed out. And only do that after you've gotten rewards. That way you can check the status and maybe run some commands if somebody is helping you troubleshoot. And that is all.